It has been 1 year since that fateful day that I had brunch that ended in permanent vision loss. So, I want to talk about it because I never really told everyone exactly how it happened. I'm not looking at myself, so I don't know if I'm in the camera. So there's a lot of parts to this story, and it really isn't that big of a deal, but it was an interesting process, and I learned a lot about eyes and a lot about champagne corks, and a lot about gratitude, actually, and I don't know, I'm gonna tell you the story from the beginning, and actually the beginning is before the incident because there was some weird foreshadowing leading up to the event. The night before this fateful brunch, I was at a birthday party and we were all we just happened to talk about eye injuries. I think I even brought it up because I have this theory that everybody gets a scar around their eye before they die. Like, I have one, but I always forget what side it's on. But it was from a surfing injury, which makes me sound cooler than I am, but I was like 11 in Hawaii. But what's interesting is that I was surfing the day of this incident too. I think surfing's dangerous for my face. Okay, so that was the night before. That's one foreshadowing event. Then on the way so we go surfing in the morning with my friend Matt, and we're gonna make brunch afterward. And so we stop at the store to get some supplies, and we get supplies for mimosas. And we're driving back to his house, and I notice on his driver's license that he doesn't have the little red donor thing. Sorry, Matt, calling you out. But I look at that and I was like, I want to be a donor so bad. I'm so excited to donate my organs when I die, especially my eyes. I've always had such good vision, and I'd love to give that to someone else. And within 20 minutes, I'd permanently damaged one of my eyes forever, which is just funny. Which is just so funny. So then I'm at their house, and we're prepping breakfast, and I brunch. It was after 10. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna go out and pop the champagne. And then I was like making a joke that, I was gonna go pop it against their house in the backyard. And I was like, watch, it's gonna bounce off the wall and hit me in the cut off my sentence. That's the third foreshadowing thing. So, craziness. So how it exactly happened is that this is my lovely prop for today. It's a lava lamp because champagne bottles are in my nightmares. I'm just kidding, they're not, but I don't have any champagne. I have a lava lamp. So I'm carrying the champagne outside, and I'd already taken off the cage and taken off the tin foil. And let this be the lesson for you. If there's anything my craziness and my life can teach you in my whole life, okay, you are holding a loaded weapon when you take off that cage, because I've heard, my aunt was just telling me that because of my whole thing, she like took off the cage of champagne cork and just made sure she was pointing it away, and right when she took the cage off, the cork flew out. So you never know. But I particularly did not know that, because I knew you always had to pry it out. And so anyways, so I hadn't done any prying, and I'm carrying it outside, and I go to open, they have like a sliding glass door, and it's like a little stiff to really open. So I am gonna use two hands, so I go to set down the champagne bottle on, they have like a cushiony ottoman too. It's not like I slammed it down on a table. I'm like placing it on this ottoman, and like as I'm setting it down from like this far away, I should be using, can you see me enough? Hang on. Fart Fignogan. iPhone lenses are super cool, and I highly recommend them. Did you see what happened? Now we have a fisheye lens. Which is probably, I should have done that in the first place because I was probably not on camera, and I'm sorry. Anyways, demonstration. Walking outside, go to open door, can't open door, so gonna use two hands, put champagne bottle down on fluffy ottoman, right in the old oho. Probably from like, 8 inches away. So then I started screaming louder and prouder, not proud, but louder than I'd ever screamed before. And it was actually funny. I remember it happened and I screamed, and after like 2 seconds I realized how serious it was, because I actually thought that my eyeball had fallen out of my head. And so I'm screaming, like I was like rendered senseless, like it was the craziest sensation. But anyways, well, the craziest sensation that I've ever felt. So I'm screaming, and I realized that this is really serious, and I can scream really loud. So then I just like, I remember thinking that and thinking like, oh wait, I don't have to contain this at all. So I screamed my head off. Sorry, Matt, Carson. and their poor roommate Nick, who was like sleeping or just in his room, you know, living his own life, and then comes out after he hears like blood-curdling murder status screaming. So sorry about that. But I screamed only for like 20 seconds. Matt says it's more like a minute, but regardless, after that time, I stopped and I laid down on their kitchen floor, and we put a bag of frozen peas on there, and I took an Advil because Advil solves everything. I actually shouldn't have taken an Advil, because what ended up happening, well, hang on, don't get ahead of yourself. Okay, so they finished making brunch. No, I don't think I continued helping. They took care of it as I laid on the couch. I was a little shaken up, granted, but my eye like immediately swelled shut, and so I assumed it was just like a black eye, like you get punched in the face and then you look like you got punched in the face for a few days and then it goes away. But I'd never been punched in the face before, and particularly not with a champagne cork, so I didn't really understand the seriousness of it. I didn't really understand the seriousness of I didn't understand how serious it was. So let this be a lesson to you all that your eyes are pretty serious things. If you want to keep seeing out of them, then you should prioritize their health and safety. So also I learned that there's as much pressure in a champagne bottle as there is in the tire of a double-decker bus. Okay, next part of the story is that I didn't know what I was, like I didn't do anything about it. I continued living my casual day. It wasn't until that night that I sent a picture of my eye to our friend who happens to be an emergency room doctor, and I was like, hey, champagne cork exploded right into my eyeball. Should I be worried? And he goes, well, can you see out of it? And I was like, well, I haven't checked. It's swollen shut. What do you mean? So I go over to his house, and this is after I've like ridden a train to go back up to my hometown, and he opens my eye, and I can't see anything. I can see light, but I couldn't see fingers in front of my face. And apparently it looked pretty gnarly. So he was like, go back down the mountain and go to, I grew up on a mountain. That's a whole other story. Go back down the mountain and go to the ER immediately. So I go to the ER, and basically that night they did what hurt far more than the injury. The injury itself didn't actually hurt that bad because your eye doesn't have that many senses. But then the retinal specialist, they dilated my pupil, and they're trying to like look through my eye to see if the retina is okay. But they can't really see anything because there's so much blood in my eye. So what I was initially diagnosed was with a hyphema, and so a hyphema is like blood in your eye. Oh, I have pictures of all these things. All right. This is where the picture of the blood in my eye goes. Okay, so then with this blood in my eye, they were like, well, it's gonna go away. You are super lucky. Just you have to stay with your head elevated for the next week. And what was unfortunate is that my family was leaving on vacation the next day on a road trip up to Oregon to visit our cousins, so I couldn't go on that road trip, so I was home alone. I could watch TV and everything, and you know, because that's what life's about. But anyways, so I was home alone, and it was funny because then of course my eye looked crazy because they kept my pupil dilated for like a few weeks because it would help it heal by having like the least amount of your pupil expanding to its max capacity was like keeping less things from moving around in there. Or something, science, doctors. So I looked crazy, and then I had to document how every expression that I had in that crazy eye scenario. So I took all these pictures. I'm just gonna put them over my face. Pictures! Yeah! What's this looking like? Do we still need it to be fisheye, you know? Let's change it up a bit. Zooming in. Shh. Was that cool? I don't know. I can't see it. I'll check it later. Okay, so next step is that then it's like a month after the injury, and I was like, it's weird. I still can't really see very well out of this eye. When you have your pupils dilated, people who go to eye doctors can tell you, but it's hard to see, like, because you have so much light coming in that like things are blurred, you can't really focus. So I attributed all my vision loss to the pupil dilation as like the blood drained out of my eye and things went back to normal. And so, but I still, like, there was definitely still something wrong with my vision. So I go to my lovely, by the way, shout out to all my doctors that like did this. They were great. Oh, I forgot the gratitude part. The day after, you know, I went to the emergency room at night and I came home and I was told that it was all going to be great. And it doesn't matter that that was like a misdiagnosis, but what matters is that I was like sitting there and I truly felt like the feeling of gratitude like stronger than I'd ever felt it before. Because I realized how able-bodied I am and how fortunate I am to be able-bodied, because I felt what it was like to lose a sense to a degree. And I don't mean to make it sound like it was anything bigger than it was, but yeah, that feeling of gratitude was like really cool because I hadn't felt it in such a tangible way before, and I just remember sitting there and just being like, wow, I'm so lucky, and I should never take this for granted, you know, that I can see and smell and hear and walk and all of that. So, a moment of gratitude for us all. Let's, you know, even no matter what we have, like we all have our little problems, but is this Oprah or what? Okay, back to the story. So, I go back to the doctor and they look into it and they see that I do in fact have a hole in my retina, but they can't really be sure just looking into it. So I have to go to a retinal specialist. And this is the night before I was leaving for Burning Man. Hold for sirens. So I go to a retinal specialist and this is the night before I'm supposed to leave for Burning Man, and he does a scan of my eye. And remember, like, you know, the day before this, I thought that I was gonna be totally fine. And so he scans my eye, and then he comes and sees me like, hi, okay, so you do have a hole in your retina. We can do surgery either like in a month or 2. You better book it now because it fills up really quickly. And he just starts telling me all this stuff, and I'm sitting there like, what? Surgery? Craziness. And so then I'm like, can I still go to Burning Man? And he's like, oh, yeah, my brother goes to that festival. Yeah, sure, just be safe. And so off I went to Burning Man with my newly found hole in my retina. Oh, well, man, I have a lot to say. This is gonna be a forever video. I don't know how I'm gonna cut this short. I don't know if anyone's gonna watch 15 minutes of me explaining what happened to my eyeball. I should make this live. Okay, this video is becoming way too long, and I just watched it, and I don't know how I'm gonna edit it into something that isn't an excessive amount of time to talk about an eyeball. But to finish the story, I get a vitrectomy. That's the surgery that I got. And what they were gonna, because this is how my retina looked. It was like, I should put my, okay, whatever. It was like, you know, retina, 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 hole, which looked kind of like a valley between the mountains of my retina. And so what they were going to do in the surgery is that they were going to clear out all the scar tissue and the liquid that have gotten into that hole, you know, so that, because the retina, it's not like a friggin' bone in your leg. You know, they can't do anything about it. It has to heal itself. I guess bones have to heal themselves, but the point is that it has to heal itself. It has to, you can't just put like a fake retina in. And so it's like this, and they're trying to make it so that the two sides can find itself and it can become a retina again, become a full thing. Because the retina is like the film of your camera eye. If your eye was a camera, then the lens is out here and the retina is the film in the back, and that's what the image is being shown. So like when people wear glasses, it's to change their lenses. But the thing about the film is if there's a hole in your film, your picture's gonna have a hole in it no matter what lens you have on. So that's why it's different than like another kind of eye issue. And what was interesting, so what the hole looked like to me, it looked like a funhouse mirror effect a little bit. In the center of my vision, it was like, you know when you look up at the sun and there's like a dark spot when you look back away? It was like that. So like this kind of like, you know, dark spot but without really defined edges, but then everything right around the dark spot was like smaller and like contorted a little bit. So like if I was looking at someone and I closed my good eye, their head would like shrink into a pinhead, and then it would be like partially not there. So that's what it looked like, which was kind of super interesting. So I go to have the surgery where they take that scar tissue and liquid out and they put an air bubble in its place. Not in its place, but they put an air bubble there right in that little crevasse to keep anything else from getting there so the retina can heal itself. Okay, so the thing about getting an air bubble in your eye is that then I had to lay face down for a week to keep the air bubble in position in the back of my eye, doing its job, keeping all that stuff out so that the retina could heal itself. So I borrowed a massage table from our dear friend Christina, and I lived face down in a massage table for a week. And it was awesome. I did this thing. I was like, I'm face down, let's FaceTime, and just put a call to anyone who wanted to reach out to me because I wasn't going anywhere. And all of these great people FaceTimed in. This is me putting their pictures. I don't know where I am in this scenario. Anyways, so I have this surgery, and what's crazy about the surgery is that you're awake during it, which you're awake for a lot of, smaller surgeries, I guess. But so they gave me like a bit of anesthesia. Like the anesthesiologist said it was as if he gave me like 2 really strong margaritas, and I was like, all right, bartender, because they just want to relax you. But so they like kind of strapped my head in. But what's crazy is that I still could move. Like, I wasn't immobilized. If I wanted to, as he's like sticking, so he was looking through my pupil, had my pupil dilated, and had one flashlight and then one little tool in the white part of my eye, 2 little, prongs. And so he's in my eyeball. I could have gone, doink! I could have done that. That's crazy that I could have done that, but I didn't do that. And it was fine. The whole thing went pretty okay, but you're like hearing them talk, and then every once in a while they're like, how you doing, Hannah? And you're like, fine. But yeah, at one point he was like looking for a tool and he couldn't find it, and I was like, oh god, it's one of those things where you like, it's like the worst thing you want to hear when you're getting surgery. But everything was great, and then I got this great metal eye patch, and then I was face down. And once I was off the massage table and into the real world again, that air bubble, though it had already done as much of its job as it could, it takes 6 weeks to like disappear from your eyeball. And so it was so interesting. I just had this air bubble in my eye, and I wish I was better at like After Effects and could like put a bubble over this and show you what it looks like. I'll just do it with my hands because that's more fun. So at first it was like I couldn't see anything, but then it was like a water line, and it lowered, and it's like I could see everything above that water line, but nothing below it was all murky. And then it got smaller and smaller until it was like a little bubble, and it was like so funny. I could bounce it around. I could shake my head and it would bounce around my eyeball. I could shake my head really hard. I'm sure this is the proper thing to do, but I'd shake my head really hard and it would break into all these different little bubbles, and then over time would become one bubble again. And it was a very interesting thing. Oh my gosh, my favorite part was that like when it was still fairly large, when I was looking straight, I couldn't see through it at all. But when I looked straight down, and like, so the bubble was like in the center of my vision, and I put something really close to my eye, I had like superhuman vision. I had magnified vision. It was so cool. Like I could see every one of my fingerprints that close to my face. Like right now, I mean, even on my good eye, you can't see that close, but I could. And so it was really cool. It was like bionic woman status. Anyways, so that was cool. And that took like 6 weeks. And now here I am a year later, and the surgery was very successful, by the way. This is like a really new procedure. It's like only, in the past 5, maybe 10, I don't know, years. But anyways, the point is, it's like, this is modern day science at work here. And it healed a lot better than we expected. So basically, it used to look like this, like a valley, so like an actual hole. Now there's kind of like a bridge that formed. And then every time I go in, it's like that bridge gets a little lower down and maybe a little bit more solidified. Now it probably won't heal any more from where it is right now, but it's definitely better than it was. Now it's not like a black, like it's not like a hole, it's just kind of like a little blur in the middle of my vision. I don't get that funhouse mirror effect anymore. But I will say that it's like, if I closed that eye and tried to read a page of like a book, it would be very hard because it's right in the center of my vision. And so I'm constantly like looking around it to see what I'm trying to see. And so I couldn't drive very well as well. So that's why you got 2 eyes, and the eyes are incredible things, and they constantly are balancing each other out, which is so cool. I with both eyes open, I rarely ever notice. Like I think about it maybe once every 4 days. That's pretty rare, and it's not that I think about it that much, but like if I look, at stars, when I look at stars, I see double stars now, so bonus, so many bonuses. So that's it. It's been a year. That's the story of Hannah and her holy retina. And I'm gonna be like this forever, and that's totally fine. That's actually not entirely true, because science and technology could advance so far in the future that they could make robot eyes. And with my robot eye, I could put a camera in there, and then I could film the most, like, you know, undercover documentaries ever. And it would be awesome. That would be so awesome. So I'm first on the list for camera in my eye. Okay, not first. I guess you people without eyes. You people, you eyeless people. But anyways, it was a fun, interesting, different kind of experience in my life. I painted this card for my retinal specialist to thank them for all the great care they gave me, because that was really a cool part of it too. So I hope you have a great rest of your day. I'll see you later. I'm gonna turn this off now. Bye!